You can create beautiful watercolor backgrounds with some basic supplies that you probably already have. I just used some painter's tape to secure them to a clipboard, and the reason for that is because this is not watercolor paper. You can use watercolor paper. This is just cardstock. I wouldn't recommend using copy paper like regular printer paper because that's pretty thin. You need something a little thicker that can absorb some water. But I'm using cardstock and I have it taped to my clipboard so that it is secured on either side, which will slightly prevent some warping as you apply the water. So in addition to my paper, I also have I'm using a combination of Tombow pens and Artist Loft pens, and they work really well. You could also use Crayola markers or anything that's water soluble. So you need some markers and then a plastic bag, like a sandwich bag. You can also use saran wrap, or I've even tried using foil, anything that has kind of a slippery surface to it. You also need a spray bottle, and if you don't have one of these, you can use like an eyedropper, or you can just sprinkle water onto the surface, which I'll show you in a minute. So to create the background, first you want to choose a color combination. I recommend using 3 to 4 colors that look good together. Once you choose your colors, then you take your plastic bag and you just scribble on some color. If you're using these brush pens, it's easier if you kind of put the pen more parallel to the paper. Spray this surface with some water until you'll start to see some water droplets forming. You want it to be wet enough that the colors become dampened and they'll transfer onto the paper, but not too wet that the paper will become kind of soggy. All right, I'm going to spray the bag and then turn it over onto the paper. So you can see I have some large droplets forming. Now I'm going to turn it over and set it down. And at this point, you can kind of decide what you want to do. If you were to lift it up right now, you would see all these dots of color on the paper. You can also use your finger to spread the color around a little bit. You can spread out the edges. You can fill in some of the gaps. You can kind of manipulate where the color is going. I like when the edges have kind of like a splattered look. But also you shouldn't manipulate it too much, because then if you do, all the colors will kind of blend together and become one color. You want to keep the separate colors visible. Okay, so now I'm going to lift the bag quickly off the paper. And you can see I still have droplets on the bag. So if I wanted to, say for instance I wanted to add more of the dark blue dots over here, well, I still have some on my bag, so I can carefully add some more. After that, this part is optional, but I like to use my heat tool, which I showed in the embossing video, but I'm gonna just use the heat tool. I'll let it heat up for a little bit and then dry the paper. Right now you can kind of see the paper is starting to warp a little bit. Drying it will help prevent that. It's also a good idea to keep a paper towel on hand in case you get pools of water on your paper. You can kind of dab them up. You can also use that to lighten up some areas, so if it's too dark you can use the paper towel to pick up some color and make it lighter. For the next one I'm going to use a little bit different color combination. When you flip the bag over, make sure you're flipping it quick enough, because if you have all this water that's pulled up on the surface and then you pick it up and it starts flying to one side, it could just spill all over your paper. You never really know how this is gonna turn out. I'm gonna use some of this plastic, it's kind of like plastic wrap, and I'm gonna crumple it up a little bit, and this is gonna add some texture. So this kind of redistributes how the ink is on the page. It kind of turned into one color, but the saran wrap added some texture, you can see here. But now that I dried this off, I'm going to go over it again. I think I want to add some more of the blue color, and then maybe a little bit more yellow also. Now you can see some more of the yellow and the blue amongst all the green. So like I said, you never really know how these are going to turn out. Both of these designs look very different from each other, even though similar techniques were used. So it depends on how and where you draw on the bag, where you place the colors, and then how much water you spray on, and then what you do with the colors after you flip the bag over. So if you try this out, experiment with different things, use different amount of water. You can even try using salt water, that can create a cool texture. And then after your background is dry, whether you have a heat tool or you just let it air dry, which is fine too, you can use these backgrounds to add some lettering on top, so you can write a quote on here. You can emboss on top of them. So yeah, these are some examples. Here's another one that I made with some different colors. So try it out and let us know what you think. Let us know if you have any questions, and let us know if you try a technique that works really well.